New York is a trash city. This is a fact. New York has maintained a consistent population of nearly 8 million in the city limits for almost a century, and all those people produce trash. The goal of this video is to attempt to establish a history of the trash trains. How did they start and evolve, and who are some of the graffiti artists involved with painting trash trains today? Freight train trash is often synonymous with construction debris and scrap metal, and the cars carrying them are sometimes called trash cars, which is fitting since the string of cars carrying them are sometimes known as junk trains. Even these so-called junk trains will still carry resources. However, the trash cars literally just carry trash. They are some of the slowest and lowest priority freight cars. Oil needs to go somewhere eventually. Minerals need to go somewhere eventually. Trash is just trash. The earliest information I could find says that the green trash trains were part of a program started by Mayor Bloomberg in 2007 to reduce the congestion and price caused by offloading Bronx trash by truck. CSX, New York Atlantic, and the Department of Sanitation handled tons of the trash, sometimes using trains primarily carrying the iconic green trash containers, and sometimes added on to other cars that also carry other general manifest such as oil, grain, produce, or chemicals. Unlike on the major West Coast cities, where more than half of waste materials are recycled, New York City dumps 3/4 of its refuse into trash regardless of the product. The closure of in-city landfills means that the trash gets dumped to states in the South and Midwest, such as Ohio, Virginia, and South Carolina. The West Coast has trash trains of its own, run by Union Pacific and BNSF. These companies take garbage from the Seattle metro area and offload it in landfills in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. To tell about the graffiti on the trains, it's necessary to give some background on the history of graffiti overall. Graffiti in its current form is largely attributed to graffiti writers in Philadelphia and New York City, the latter of whom took the art form to another level by creating intricate, full-scale art productions on trains, a rolling canvas that allowed their work to be shown across the boroughs. After the MTA waged its war on graffiti, it is rare these days to see a bombed-out train in New York. With steeper penalties around trains, graffiti artists instead took to the streets, rooftops, highways, and freight trains around them. New York bombers are known for relentlessly writing on anything and everything, and the trash trains are no exception. My guess is that with a growing scene of young artists in Bushwick and Long Island City, two neighborhoods that house the trash trains, these writers were closer than ever to recreating the dream of painting a train and watching it roll through the city. Instead of getting added to the rail pool across the country like other train cars, the green containers stay on the East Coast and run through other major cities such as Philadelphia and Wilmington, making it more likely that an artist will spot their work once again. Given the offbeat nature of painting a trash train, New York City trash trains are often covered in more experimental graffiti by artists such as Dip, Carso, and Slutto, though the typical New York throwies still proliferate. Even more traditional bombers often find themselves taking on a more experimental style on the trash trains. The consensus seems to be that COVID was when writers began saturating the trash trains, as the entire city saw a new wave of graffiti. New writers, current writers, and retired writers all came out, emboldened by a distracted police force that had larger priorities than graffiti, along with the temporary suspension of New York City's graffiti removal program. Blue trash trains are a common sight in New Jersey, and these cars are typically offloaded from New York City's 91st Street waste processing facility by barge to get sent to energy plants. Given that the blue trash is stored in high-security facilities rather than left out in yards, riders do not have as much opportunity to hit these trains, aside from when they are stalled in random parts of New Jersey, so as a result, the trains largely remain clean. Freight train culture is not as big in New York as in other cities. The New York area only receives 2 to 3% of its freight via train, while the average in other parts of the U.S. is closer to 20%. Part of the lack of freight service is due to lobbying from truck companies, and another challenge is that for trains to head south, they must first go 140 miles north before they can cross the Hudson River, with the exception of trains that are moved by barge. There are plans for a rail tunnel connecting New York and New Jersey, which might expand the freight network, although the tunnel is more so for Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. While most of the political funding and approval has been secured, the tunnel is not expected to open for at least another 10 years.